So, if you had watched the last video, you know that I left you with this teaser image. And today, I'm going to kind of show you how we got there. Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL. And today I am taking you from, well, we've already made the kumis. I showed you that in the last video. I'm going to show you how I got this part together and the progress that I've been making over here. So this part here, this getting the colors into the right sequence, not only was that super important, but it turns out that it's actually a little bit difficult because of the, like say that first string is reds, right? The problem is several of them have reds, right? The purple and red have the red, and the orange and red also have the red, as well as just obviously the red one. So it was really easy to get kind of turned around and try to figure out, okay, wait, this is two solids. Now this is a mix, and then a solid, then the mix. So it took a little bit longer than I'm accustomed to. In fact, there was one point I kind of got some mixed up, and I had grabbed an orange and a red and a solid red, and then kind of like trying to find the other ones, trying to get it on track was like, wait, something's missing. Did I not put enough strings in there? It has to be right. How else would the kumi work? And it just went into this whole, I thought I was losing my mind kind of thing. Turns out it was okay. I just had grabbed something originally wrong. And I'm only telling you this story because I'm thinking that you guys are probably going to go and contact Creation Chaos and say, hey, I want similar groups of color, whether it's a rainbow or a fade or something interesting, which obviously I highly recommend that. Absolutely. Get a hold of her. Check out that cool stuff she has. And because this becomes pretty amazing. Like, so see that orange red coming in there? That's a mix. You only get that because it's a variegation and that it's doubled up. And that's where it's kind of giving that weird sort of marbling effect. Next is this solid orange. And, so you know exactly what to expect from a solid, but it's those variegateds and the way that the variegated play with the fact that they match perfectly to the next one over, like the mixed orange and red. It's absolutely brilliant. I really love the way this thing is coming out. And I guess I kind of knew that it would have sort of a tie-dye effect, and the fact that it is sort of made with a tie-dye kind of thing sort of makes sense. But I guess it's tie-dye looking because of the organic nature of the way the colors kind of mix at different points. But the fact that, you're tying the knots and you're controlling the strings, you can give it a very, like a pattern like this. This is very zigzag, right? That's very digital. And then we've added this organic to that digital type thing. It's exactly what I wanted to do. And I've said this so many times already. I have wanted to do this for a very long time. And this is just like any of the rest of my bag videos. I am joining multiple of these things together. They just come together and just not kind of naturally. The red comes in and makes the first diamond. That very long straight row is the red. It makes the first diamond, and everything works and responds basically after that. Now, what I can tell you about when it comes to this is, again, the colors mixing the way they do kind of leaves it a little bit more difficult. I'm used to using my colors, whether it's a fade, a rainbow, or even just a bunch of silly colors that are grouped together, being able to use them to know where the two come together at their point. Like this orange that's coming down now, right? It's going to meet up with the orange from the other side. That's pretty simple. But when the colors start getting mixed and things get a little bit weird, it's a little bit more difficult to know when you make that corner, right? So this is, again, because of the whole zigzag thing, it adds a little bit more to the challenge. I'm not going to say that it's tremendously difficult because I don't want to discourage you guys from trying it. But you're going to want to know what you're doing. You're going to want to know how to accomplish this kind of stuff in order to, well, okay, so right there, that orange that came up, that solid orange, has gone one too far. Right now, from this vantage point, right now that I'm the whole aftermath or whatever, I can see it. But at that moment, I didn't, and I was just following it. And here's, I'm starting to do the other stuff, a whole bunch. Yeah, this is where I start to do the counting, and the wonders of edit. I was able to go ahead and cut out where I had to go and take all those extra knots out. Again, I tell you this so that way maybe you don't have as much of a hard time. Maybe you pick a pattern that you're so familiar with that you don't have this kind of trouble. It was a lot of fun, I have to say. It's even just, mind you, the bag is nowhere near done yet, but even just this far, just seeing how it's coming along, totally fun. I do have to say though, so if you watched the other video, you saw that I had talked a bit about how I was going to make it with 5 loops. Now, when I had ordered up the string, I hadn't actually thought much about like how different this string would be from like the rest of the strings I normally use. Right. So, because normally, and I've done videos on this as well, where I've talked about there's potential for size differences, right? So in this, I was just calculating out based on the number of strings. It seemed like it was pretty big, kind of like my other stuff. So I was going to go with 5 loops because the other one's at 4 loops. And mind you, I can't do the math. I wish I'd written this down beforehand. But 4 loops is 24. That's what, 96 strings? Maybe I can do this in my head. Okay, so 96 strings. So I figured by doing 5 loops at 24, I was going to end up with like 120 strings, right? So this is going to be bigger. That's so cool. I'm getting a giveaway that's bigger. Again, I hadn't taken into account the fact that this string is actually smaller. And by the time I got the 5 loops together and was kind of looking at it and thinking, gee, that doesn't seem like it's that much of a difference. Why would that be? And when I put it up against one of my other previous bags, that's when I discovered like this is going to be the same size as those previous bags. So I was really fortunate that I had aimed to go bigger, because if I hadn't, the thing would have been so tiny you couldn't even fit, like a credit card or, anything inside of it. It would have been like a change purse or something, I guess. But again, if I'd ordered up some extra string, I would have made my little gauge thing. I would have done the math. I would have figured out what I needed to do to make this happen. And ideally, I think what I really would have wanted was to have gotten more string. And again, that was my fault, miscommunication there. I'm going to do a larger bag eventually. I have put in the order for the string. Right now, she's really super busy. But that will come along. I don't think it's going to be a giveaway because I'm going a bit bigger than even where I was first thinking of going with this. And so I'm kind of invested a bunch of money into it. So I think it's going to end up in the shop. The alternative to that is, and you guys tell me if you want this to be a thing, I could make it a goal that somebody gets to win it when I reach a certain number on Patreon, whether it's, we get 50 people supporting me through Patreon, something like that. That's a possibility as well, because at least that will help me to have covered the cost of the string itself, because she has great prices, but when you have to buy a lot and I do mean it's a lot of string. I don't remember what the exact count was. I had my wife doing it for me. It does add up. So if that's something you guys are interested, let me know, and I'll see what we can work out. Other than that, I think it really, the bigger one needs to go to the shop. So let's see what else. So yeah, I did talk about the fact that this setup was a little bit more difficult. Even some of this, making sure that you have the right string and you're tying it to the right ones or whatever. Normally, I'm so used to my embroidery floss. When I double up my string, at some point, the two strings sort of, I guess the word would be they marry each other. They become almost as one. Pearl cotton, for whatever reason, the way that it's spun, seems that they don't pair up quite as nice as the other stuff. So that's a little bit different. That was something I'm kind of getting used to as I work on this project. Also, pearl cotton, because it's got that kind of a twist thing, mind you, you can see it, and it makes that fun shadow, and it looks like a ship rope, right? If you let the string drag kind of hard across your fingers, you will feel it over a couple of hours. So I kind of had to adjust the way that as I'm pulling the knot up for tension, and is how I let the strings kind of glide across my hands. I've had to use a little bit more caution as to not give myself a blister while doing it. So just notes to take in mind if you guys are interested in doing this yourself. I have to say, honestly, I don't know how she gets these colors like this. It's so brilliant. I mean, if you look at the area I'm working on where that yellow-green is, right? How the yellow seems to have kind of dominated over the green for a bit, and then the green really kind of came back in and is now making its mark. I don't know how she didn't end up with like other shades of the greens in there, or how the yellow didn't get corrupted or something. I mean, kudos to her. Such talent. I mean, this is what you pay for. This is why the string can't be cheap. Is you're not paying so much for the string, you're paying for the materials that go into making it, the time that goes into it, and all that effort that it takes to go and make all this stuff happen. Because let's face it, there was probably a lot of trial and error before she got this good. And if you want to go and try to be that person, you want to learn how to do this brilliantly, by all means. But I guarantee this has to take a lot of time before you get to where your string color and the quality looks this brilliant. Oh, and that reminds me, so I'm a guy, I don't necessarily sort my clothes very well. And if you watched the very, very first video of this whole thing, I had gotten some t-shirts, and I hadn't even thought about that tie-dye t-shirt. It went into the wash along with my socks and some of the wife's stuff, and I hadn't given it any thought whatsoever. And when I was putting the clothes up on the line, I suddenly saw it there. I'm like, oh my gosh, are my socks, weird and dirty, dingy color and anything? They were not. So it's very obvious that Creation Chaos goes and makes sure that the stuff isn't going to bleed, which, again, that's a good sign of quality right there to me, because I really was not ready to just go and buy myself a whole bunch of socks or have to explain to the wife, like, I ruined something. So just a heads up, that's, to me, that's a big deal. I don't know. I suppose a lot of places do that now, but yeah, it's when you buy tie-dye things, it's a risk that you run. So yeah, it was a risk. I was hoping for the best. I guess I didn't even think about it, really, to be perfectly honest. I hadn't thought about it at all. But it turned out, so yay. Yeah. Yeah, I really, really love the way that this whole bag thing is turning out. This is completely, wow, you know, I mean, oh, that's something too. You can see I let the clip go for that last loop because it was sort of pulling it in a funny way. So by doing the knots and kind of letting it take the shape proper, I don't run the risk of kind of forming it into a direction where it wasn't supposed to go into. So, you know, how things get lined up really nice, that's partly it right there. Kind of pull it and work it into where it needs to be. But yeah, so in this video, I kind of only get done with as far as these 5 bits being joined, and the next week I should, it's not done yet, but I should be able to get the tube of it formed and get working on that. That's my hopes. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about all that. I think this has just been brilliant. I've been having a lot of fun with this. So and hopefully you guys are enjoying it too. Hopefully you guys are getting inspired and you guys want to work on this kind of stuff for yourselves, because honestly, it's this is good fun. This is different than anything else you're seeing. I mean, run through Instagram, see if anybody else has this. I don't think they do, right? At least not yet. And yeah, eventually, I mean, I'm sure that we're going to see a lot more of these things, because there's a lot of you guys out there taking my ideas and running with it. And kudos to you guys. Absolutely, 100% kudos to you guys. You guys amaze me every time. I swear. I don't even know what to say to you guys. You guys are brilliant. So keep up that good work. Absolutely. And I'll keep trying to give you guys more and more ideas. And I know that, you know, a lot of you guys are saying, "Oh, I hope I win. I hope I." You know what? Honestly, you know, I'm really happy to hear that you guys are interested and you want to. But this time, I absolutely want nothing to do with the whole process of who gets to win. I'm going to leave this completely up to her. I'm going to send it to her, and she's going to send it to the winner. That also because I kind of want her to be able to actually check out what my work is. I don't think she's actually ever had one of my own bracelets. She is a fantastic bracelet maker in her own right. But this will give her a chance to actually, you know, hold my work for, even if it's only for, you know, a minute. So then, yeah, I mean, like I said, by all means, you know, show your enthusiasm, but just know I have zero control. So I think this is where we're going to leave it. This is as far as I've gotten. And what I think will be easier for me is if I can just get the thing put together into the tube and then go from there. It'll just be a little bit easier for me. So that's what I'm going to do next. And this way I can get this video in for you guys now, and I'll go on and start working on that part next. So until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.